Since it is already 11:30, I think we can um, start. So, hello everyone. Um, Today we are going to be discussing groups, how they work within the 4M CAD ecosystem, within the 4M CAD software. So there's probably a few things we're going to talk about with regards to not just groups, but also a little bit about blocks as to what, the differences between groups and blocks are. I'm sure if you're familiar with blocks, which you probably are, groups are somewhat similar, but there are definitely significant differences that are there between the uh, between the two concepts. So, let's get started. The agenda for today is going to be, mainly focusing on group. First of all, figuring out, what is a group, and then maybe discussing a little bit about why a group might be required over a block, or why a block might be required over a group. What a block is, what a block reference is, just a quick summary of some of these concepts so that they can get clarified in your head, and then we can move forward in actually figuring out how do people create a group. There's a few ways to do that using the group manager as well as the group explorer. Besides that, once you have access to the group manager or the explorer, there's a few things you can do over there. We're going to be discussing how you go ahead and create a group, maybe how you go ahead and modify a group. And by modify, I mean you can add objects to the group, you can remove objects, you can rename the group itself, add a description, and a few other things that you can do with the group. Besides that, once we're done with the adding and the modification, we're going to figure out how do we actually ungroup objects. Once the group has been used up, once we don't need it anymore, of course, we should be able to ungroup it. And we're going to see how we do that within this presentation. So let's move forward. First of all, we want to understand what groups are. Essentially, groups are just, a named collection where you give them a name of various objects in your drawing, and that is it. It's just a collection of objects. There is no reference in the sense that, when you create a block, you're able to have different instantiations of that block, and then you can, if you change the original block itself, the references also change. There is not that concept within groups. So you might be thinking, okay, why is it why would you want to use it? Well, we'll figure that out a bit later. Just to talk a little bit more about groups themselves, they are stored in a group table, but you don't need to worry about it. You don't need to know what it is. The idea is that they are stored within the drawing itself. There are no external files or any sort of block definitions where a group is stored. Groups, while not being stored anywhere else, they're still, of course, fully customizable in the sense that you can add entities, you can remove objects from it, you can explore the group, you can select the group, you can um, list whatever objects are part of that group. There's a few things that you can do with it. And then, the main reason, or I guess the last point that I've highlighted within my slide is, why do we need a group? Well, it's ideal for organizing similar components. That's the crux of the whole, concept of a group. If you have, let's say, 3 or 4 sofa sets, and you want to be able to move them within a room, you don't want to individually select each object and then move each object. Rather, you want to be able to select the entire thing and then just move it. But a sofa set, let's say, with 3 sofas, might be positioned differently in different rooms. So, a block, if you have them as a block, as in if you have the 3 sofas as a block, it's going to be a problem because what if you want to reorder elements within that space? Then you'll have to go to the block definition, change it over there, and it'll impact all of the references. So rather, what a group will allow you to do is just change that specific grouping without worrying about, let's say, if you're doing something in your dining room, You don't have to worry about what's happening in the lounge, the living room, or your bedroom or whatever. The idea is that you can just manage that specific portion of your drawing without worrying about any references or any of that, or any of those sort of things. So one of the a few examples that I've given here are with regards to furniture sets, they're with regards to piping assemblies. All of these places where um, you might have a block for a sofa, or you might have a block for a table, but then you might have 5, 6 different, maybe you have 3 chairs around one table, maybe you have 6 chairs around another table, etc., etc. So all of those ideally you should, contain within a group. And then if you want to move them, you can move them as a group. And yeah, that's mostly, why groups are useful within this 4M CAD ecosystem. So, I've mostly discussed what the differences are, but to put them into, some bullet points, the idea is that, it's just there's no separate definition for a group. Once you define a group, it is just there. You can't really copy paste, sorry, not copy paste, but create instantiations of that group. That's all possible. For if you want to do that, that's where blocks come in handy. Groups always, once if you create a block, you have the option of having the ability to explode it, or to remove the original block, or to remove the original entity that you created it from. That's not the case with groups. With groups, once you create a group, or once you ungroup certain elements, you can always select the objects that were a part of that group. So that's a good thing where you don't need to worry about that. It's very easy to add or remove members within a group. You don't have to go to any external, or not external, sorry, but a separate block definition or anything to add or remove things, which you would in case of a block. Um, Over here, you just open up the group manager, or there's a few command line tools you can use. Sorry, not command line. There's a few commands that you can use as well, that will allow you to quickly add or remove objects within the group. And again, just to reiterate, it's ideal for any temporary sort of assembly that you want to do with regards to furniture, with regards to piping. There's a lot of use cases for it. So yeah, with blocks, you need to understand that blocks are mostly going to be useful when you want to be able to create the same sort of item multiple times. That's the difference between a group and a block in essence. Where a group can have different blocks as part of it, but then their ordering, the way that they are structured, can be different between different groups. But rather, with a block, let's say you want to create a chair. A chair is probably, you probably have like 100 chairs, and maybe in an office space or something, and all of those chairs are going to look the same. So there's no point in creating in groups, or having to copy paste everything again and again, but rather that is where you actually create um, blocks, where you create one chair, and then that chair is going to be the reference point for all the other chairs that you. So let's move forward and discuss how do we actually go ahead and look at a group, figure out how a group works. So over here, I've mentioned two things. Either you can use the group explorer, the command for that in the dynamic input is exp groups, or you can use the command window as well. It is exp groups. It opens up the group explorer, or you can use the group manager, which is what I prefer. And the command to do that is just to type in the word group, and it opens up the group manager dialog. I always prefer to use dynamic input. Of course, you can go ahead and I'll show it to you. In 4M CAD, of course, I have something opened up, and you can, of course, go ahead and type in the command group, which will open up this explorer. There's a few groups that I've already created, but we'll create a few more just to be able to show you what we're doing. And then at the same time, what the other command which I said is groups explorer. So it's sort of the same thing, a little bit different. I don't really like this UI. I like the dialog opening up. rather than this sort of a ribbon that pops up. So I don't usually use this, but the idea is that this explorer should be able to allow you to do everything that the other one does, or at least most of the things that the group manager allows you to do. So again, just to show you, the group manager, this is what it looks like. We're going to see soon how to create a new group, how to modify the existing groups, how to create unnamed groups, and yeah, let's move forward. Okay, so creating a new group, it's quite simple. All you need to do is, you go to this panel over here. Actually, let me cancel and let me show you. Right, let me show you. Let's say, we see that this block, it's a block reference, and this should also be a block reference, and this should also be a block reference. And we see that there's 4 chairs over here, and then there is one, table in the middle. And there's a few instances of that. So maybe we want to move this table somewhere else. Either, we go ahead and select each one, and then we go ahead and use the move command and move it somewhere else. And let's say we move it to some other place, and then we're like, oh no, we want to put it back. Then we have to select all 5 entities again. And it becomes a bit repetitive, but instead, this is where, one of the uses of a group comes in. So let's say we call it table set 2. We can add a description, just, just something, if you want, you can add a description, or you can not add a description, completely up to you. What this selectable means is, once I create the group and I click on any of the items within the group, it will select the entire group itself. So if I have this checked, it will do that. If I don't have this checked, then it will only, if I click on this chair, it will only select the chair and not the rest of the group. So right now, let's just keep it on just to show you how it works. And it's going to ask us to select the entities that we want. So we'll select this chair, we'll also select this, and then this table. And once I've selected the 5 items, you can see that the total number is mentioned over here. I can just press enter, and it'll create the table set 2 for us. So, this is how it works. And if I say okay, and if I hover over any of these items, you'll see that it selects all of the 5 items itself, and you'll see that these 5 items are selected over here, and it mentions that it is a part of a group as well. And the same is going to happen if I select any of these items. And again, to reiterate my point, once I have these, let's say I select this, once I have these items selected, I can just go ahead and move the entire thing. And if I want to, put it back, I can just go ahead and do that. So this is where the usage of a block is beneficial. Where usage of a group is beneficial. So as I explained, we created a group and we added some elements to it. However, let's say we want to add let's say we want to add the table and the chairs next to the current set of tables and chairs, table and chairs that we added in. So again, it's very simple to do that. And, of course, it shouldn't be that once you create a group, it stays like that permanently. No, you should be able to modify it, of course. So 4MCAD, of course, allows you to do just that. So I'll open up the group manager again. We'll select the table set 2, and then we will see that, this modify selected group gets populated. So, I can change the description over here. I can change the name over here. I can make this selectable or unselectable. And once I click OK, it'll apply those changes. So right now, since I want to add a few other entities, I'll go ahead and do that. So let's say we add these 5 items to the group. Okay, so let's click OK. And now we see that once I hover over these, it's going to show that there are 10 items in total, 5 of these and 5 of these that are a part of this group. Remember, you can always, if you prefer, you can use the Groups Explorer to be able to, I believe, add entities. This is the button for it. But I'll keep on using the Group Manager just because it's a bit more, the UI looks a bit better for me personally. I've also given instructions in case you need to make a screenshot on how you would do it in Forum CAD. The next step would be, once we've added, once we figured out how to add entities, how to add objects to a group, we also need to figure out how to remove entities from a group. So again, people can make mistakes. You can add, or not just mistakes, like maybe you just want to remove some objects from a group. Maybe the set of table and chairs that we added right now, we don't want them anymore. So we should be able to do that. And we are able to do that on 4MCAD, where if I open up the software again, you can open up the group, select this group, and then there's this button over here that allows you to remove entities from a group. So let's say I select this one, I select this, I'll select this table as well, I'll select this here as well as this here. You see that the number over here keeps on going up. And now these aren't a part of that original group anymore. We see that only these 5 items are part of that group and those got removed. Keep in mind that there's another way to do this a bit more quickly without having to open up the Groups Explorer or the Group Manager, and that is to use this command, Group Edit. So let's say I want to edit this group. It'll allow me to add or remove, or at the same time rename the group. So if I want to add something, I'll just click this and I can quickly click the entities and just press enter, and it'll add them to the group. And yeah, the same goes for sorry, the same goes for remove, where once I click on remove, I'll be able to select the entities that I want to remove, and it'll do that. And then for rename, I can just type in the new name, and it'll set the new name for this group as whatever I've typed in. Do remember that, and this is, a caution that I've mentioned this, or not caution, but more like just something to keep in mind, is that any objects that you remove from a group are still going to be there, in a block. Once you remove items, they would be removed from, all the references or whatever. That's not going to be the case for a group. It's just that the idea of the group is gone for that object, where it's no longer a part of that group, but it still exists within the drawing itself. So keep that in mind. Rename a group, as I showed you right now, either you can do it using the group edit command, or you can use the group manager to do it as well. It's entirely dependent on what you prefer. So just to reiterate, group edit asks us to select the group. Let's select this group, and then we have the ability to enter a new name. I don't want to change the name right now, so I'll just press escape. And the same applies for the group manager, where maybe instead of table set 2, you want to set it to table set 5 or whatever. Once you click OK, it'll get renamed to table set 5. The same goes for the description, where I could, if I wanted to, just change the description over here. And once I click OK, once I click rename group or change group description, it'll apply those changes. So similar, the exact same steps, open up the group manager using the command group. Under the modify selected group panel, you can just enter the new description, click the change group description button, and then that's it. It might pop up with the dialog, it might not. Just click OK if it does, and that's about it. Ungrouping, very simple to do. The idea is, of course, that when you're done with a group and you've moved around things, when you're at that final stage where you don't need a group anymore, you can either leave it there, or the better idea is to ungroup those elements, because that group isn't needed anymore. How do you do that? There's again, there's a few ways, but I'll just show you how it's done in the group manager, because that's what I prefer. Is it just has these remove entities from, oh sorry, it has this ungroup entities, and what it'll do is it'll essentially just remove this entire it'll remove this grouping itself, so it'll delete this. So let's say for this testing sofas, you don't need to know what it is, but once I click ungroup, you see that it's now gone from this table. And that's about it. That's about it for how you ungroup entities. And keep in mind that the sofa set was, this set over here, and of course the objects are going to be there. Like the objects will not get deleted or whatever, even if you ungroup certain elements. It says that the idea of the group will go away, and that's it. That's it. Like nothing else will get changed. You also have the option to type in the command on group, select the group that you want. So if I select this group, it'll ungroup these elements as well. And yeah, that's about it for how to ungroup or explore entities. You saw right now that let's go ahead and upload. So we still see that all of these are still block references, which they were originally. And that is the idea of the group. It's not going to mess with anything that was there beforehand, but it'll create these, like it'll just leave it be. And it doesn't matter if you created, if an object, let's say this chair is part of multiple groups, which it can be in FormCAD. It doesn't make a difference. Once you ungroup, the object is the same as what it was previously. Even right now, even once you create an object, it's still a block reference. It's just that it's grouped together such that once you select something, once you select maybe any part of the group, it'll select the entire thing itself, depending on, of course, how you have it set up. But it's just that that is used as an identifier. It doesn't supersede any of the referenced items, that any of the references that you've created for that block itself. Okay, this is sort of the last element that is, where maybe the ordering might come in handy. Maybe the draw order, you want it to be in a certain way, and the way that the objects are structured within the group right now, it might not be like that. So you have a way to do that in the group manager itself. So let's go back. So since I've ungrouped this, I will use one of the other groups that I have. And you need to keep in mind that, I have the stable set one. I can say highlight selected group, and I know that, okay, it is this group over here. So I'm like, okay, now I know what the stable set one is. I can go into reorder, select the stable set and then go into reorder entities. Actually, you don't even need to select table set. You'll see that the groups that I currently have are displayed over here. Once I click this particular group, you'll see that a few of these things populated. Well, let me show you again. You see right now nothing's written over here, versus when I select this, there's a few items that get added within this space. So what does this mean? We know that the total number of items is total number of items are 5 for this specific group. So that's why you see that the number of entities over here are 1 to 5. Now, what does this mean? Remove from position 0 to 4. Well, this is a 0 index group. So maybe the 0th element is one chair, the first element is another, the second is another, third is another, fourth is another. But you need to realize that, it starts with the value 0 rather than the value 1. So it is 0 indexed. If I want to highlight, you'll see that entity 0 it is this chair over here. Entity 1 is this chair over here. Entity 2 is this chair. Entity 3 is this chair. And this is entity 4. So let's say, I don't like the ordering. Maybe instead of this being entity 4, I want it to be, or maybe instead of this ordering, I want it to be reversed. Well, no, of course, I can do that. Once I click reverse order, which I've clicked already, we'll see that now this table, which was previously entity 4, is now entity 0. And we'll see that, basically the roles get reversed. What is the purpose of this reorder over here? Well, what this reorder does is, I'm sorry, what this reorder does is once I have this selected, maybe I want to move something from position 0 to position 2. And the number of items that I want to move are 2. So once I reorder, and then once you highlight, you'll see that the items that were there previously in position 0 are now shifted to position 2. And how many items starting at position 0 are shifted? Well, this is the number of items that are shifted. So depending on the number that you put over here, those are what are going to get shifted to that newer position. So that is about it for how reordering works. If I go over here, I unmark this, then what's going to happen is, now I can't select the group as one whole element. Rather, I have to go over here, and this is where I can actually see what groups I have, and I can highlight the selected group, which is this entire one. So let's turn this back on. One other thing, see, so now I can select the entire object again. One other thing is, you can also create unnamed groups. So maybe you don't want to give it a name. There's a few ways to do that. The simple one, the most obvious one is just, take this. So it'll remove the name. It'll still have the description. It'll still have the selectable, and it'll allow you to, maybe let's just add these 2 chairs. So we see that the group was created, but we don't see the group itself. That's because unnamed groups aren't being displayed right now. So we can do that where, once uh, it'll get created as an unnamed group, you can select display unnamed groups and it'll show you those groups. And then you can say highlight selected group, and we see that, the 2 chairs have been highlighted over here. Similarly, you can change the description. You can add entities, remove entities, reorder, ungroup, whatever. You can do all that. So I just ungrouped it right now, and we can see that we no longer are able to select that group. Another way to create an unnamed group is through Q group. I think it means quick grouping. So I'll just select the 2 items that I want, or actually I'll select this table as well, and I'll press enter, and it has created a group of these 3 items. And we'll see that it will appear in the group manager as well as this. So again, to reiterate, you also have the Groups Explorer, which allows you to do most of these things. But having the Group Manager is just a bit more easier to understand. There is also this command that is there, and what I just typed in was just a dash and then the word group. And again, it'll allow you to add, remove, ungroup, rename, change selectable, create a new group, um, figure out the ordering, or just list what current groups you have. So this command is also there for you to, if you're a fan of dynamic input, um, it's there for you to be able to use it without worrying too much about the UI elements of it. So I would say that is about it. If you, like again, just to summarize, creating groups is quite easy. Managing them is easy as well. But the crux of the argument is to understand when you need a group and when you need a block. The idea is that a group will be needed when you have maybe different blocks that are part of it. So as we saw right now, there were a few tables and a few chairs. All of them were there as block references, but maybe there's four sets of there are four table sets that I've created, including chairs, and I want to move them around. And maybe the chairs are positioned differently within those tables as well. So in that case, I don't want to create a separate block for each one, because a block can only look like one thing, and that is the original block itself. Like all references which will look according to that block definition, that original block definition. Versus with a group, you can have different groups. Like you can have a table set 1, a table set 2, a table set in your dining room, a table set maybe in your office space within like a certain room of your office. And if you want to move that, reposition that, scale that, whatever, you can do that to only that group without worrying about doing that, or without worrying about adding or removing elements from that group, and that impacting other groups. That's not going to happen, and that's the crux. That's the difference between a group and a block, is that it allows you this freedom, but also being restrictive in the sense that you can't just copy over something, and if you change the original one, it won't change the copied over one. So that is one thing you need to be wary of. But yeah, that's in summary, that is the main difference between a block, or when you use a block versus when you use a group. So thank you for attending. Let me know if you have any questions right now. Else else have a good lunch. So thank you for attending. Yeah, I'm open to questions. I'll be on call for a few minutes if you have anything that you'd like to discuss.